What's up, YouTube? Well, never a dull moment in Eagleville. At least within the last, how many seasons now? um, you know, I was going. I thought I had it figured out how I was gonna make this video. um, Initially, I wanted to make a video right after the loss to the Redskins with, you know, you know, and to be honest, it was going to be like because there was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of anger and frustration, not just because of that game, but really for the whole season. You know, um, you know, cumulatively. That's a hard word to say. I'm sorry, but anyhow, as a whole, basically for the season, and it was just a really frustrating season, as we all know, in Eagle Nation. And honest to God, it was gonna be like it would have been like an EDP-esque rant video. I probably would have thrown my hat and done all this stuff, because I was really, there was a big build up frustration in there, and I didn't film, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit back for a couple days and just kind of, digest this a little more, and kind of really figure out what to do in the video, with the video. Because, as we all know, the Eagles lost last Saturday night to the Redskins. 3 straight losses to the Redskins now. Two of the 3 that basically, for all intents and purposes, ended the season. And the Redskins go on to win the division in Lincoln Financial Field. And for the second straight game at home, the Eagles get taken apart, basically. And I'm sitting there these last couple of days. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it. Because communications is something that's important to me. And I make these videos and I try to convey the emotion and the feeling. And sometimes the best way of doing it, I understand, is like right after it happens. But sometimes that's the worst time too, because you're really kind of flying off the handle. And maybe that's good. Maybe I would get, a few more views with that. I don't know. I could like flip over a table and get all upset or whatever. I don't know. But I wanted to really kind of figure out what I wanted to say. And what I wanted to say, not just about the game, but about going forward. And what I would hope the Eagles are going to do going forward with the organization, with the coaching staff, with the players. And then today happens, which is, by the way, the day I was going to film this video anyhow. But today happens. I get home from work, and all of a sudden, I get this text message from my buddy. Says, the Eagles fired Chip Kelly, ? I'm like, they fired Chip Kelly? I said, I didn't hear that, because I didn't hear that just yet. And I'm like, that's a little surprising, because the season, it still has a game to go, and, usually when a coach gets fired, towards the end of the year, it's after the season, just after the season. I know coaches can get fired during the season. Obviously, that happened this year. It happens every year, basically. But towards the end of a season, it's kind of, rare that a coach would get, to my knowledge, a coach gets fired with 1 game to go. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter. It's just 1 game. The season's over anyhow. The Eagles are basically right now playing for to see who gets a higher seed in the draft in the first round. Remember the Giants, which, by the way, I hope it's the Eagles. I never want to say I hope they lose a game, but it would be okay. Because last year in this same situation, the Eagles won to get their 10th win, and went further up in the first round of the draft by a few slots. Not that I guess it would have mattered a tremendous amount, but it is what it is. So, obviously, the big bombshell this evening, is that Chip Kelly has been released from his head coaching job and / GM job. And we can split this all sorts of ways. And right now, what I'm going to do is I'm talking about a gut reaction. You can have reaction after the season going forward. Who are they going to hire as their head coach? What are the schemes going to be? What are the players, the coaching staff? And let me tell you, Chip Kelly got fired. This is my reaction to it. Chip Kelly got fired not just because of the coaching, which, look, he won. He went 10-6, 10-6, and now this season it's what is it now? 6-9. If they lose, it'll be 6-10. So it's basically the reverse. If they lose this game to the Giants, well, for all intents and purposes, he went 6-9 because that's the interim coach going to coach against the Giants. Basically went backwards. And the main reason that they went backwards this season, more so than anything else, and I know that there were some injuries, and I understand that, but all teams have injuries. The reason that this went backwards this so quickly is because of Chip Kelly, the GM. Because of the moves that he made. And I know Jeffrey Lurie's not to blame in this, because he's the one that signs off on these moves. Okay? But a lot of trust was put in a coach who's only been in the league for 2 years, for 2 seasons. And I think too much trust was put on him by Jeffrey Lurie. So Jeffrey Lurie looks at this. He says, we went from, okay, you can call it kind of a false 10-6 last season, really because of how they ended. They were 9-3 after Thanksgiving, and then they just fell apart, lost 3 in a row, 2 of which at home last season before they won a meaningless game at the Meadowlands to end the season. And then Chip Kelly is made the GM. And what does he do as the GM? Again, just like cutting Deshaun Jackson for no apparent reason the season before, he gets rid of guys. He makes all these moves, right? Doesn't retain Jeremy Maclin. Lets an all-pro receiver walk. Goes to Kansas City. Has another, all-pro solid season with Kansas City this year. Reunited with Andy Reid. Okay? You trade your all-pro running back, LaShawn McCoy, for Kiko Alonso, who was coming off an ACL injury. Okay? And I know Kiko was, he had a good year his rookie year in Buffalo, 100 I still don't know how the hell he got 100 tackles that year. I mean, he couldn't tackle his way out of a pit. I mean, Kiko Alonso makes Mark Semino look like an all-pro. All right? He makes Casey Matthews look like Clay Matthews, okay? I don't know what the hell Kiko Alonso is. I saw this shirt at Target. I thought it was the funniest thing. It was this shirt in like the older Eagles color too, and it said, what did it say again? It said the Legend of Kiko. Like the number 50, I'm like, the Legend of Kiko. I should have filmed this. It was pretty funny. My friends and I, then they had these little Nerf Eagles balls, little Eagles footballs, and we were throwing them at one another and saying, okay, if you can catch this, you're better than an Eagles receiver. And I should have filmed that, but hey, lesson learned for next time. But anyhow, for Kiko Alonso, who turned out to be a bust, okay? Pretty much for all intents and purposes. Maybe in another defensive scheme, maybe he works. Who knows? But for right now, the guy's a bust, okay? He can't cover. He has trouble tackling. He's just a bust, okay? And you lose an all-pro running back for him, okay? You let Jeremy Maclin walk. You release Evan Mathis, an all-pro guard. Oh yeah, like you don't need an offensive line in this league. You let an all-pro guard walk for basically because you think he's going to be disgruntled. You trade away Nick Foles. Now, okay, Nick Foles, Sam Bradford this season, look. Nick Foles got benched in St. Louis. Sam Bradford played out the season, whatever. But you gave up not only Nick Foles, you gave up a second-round pick for Sam Bradford coming off an ACL injury. Okay? Who does that? A second-round pick for Sam Bradford. I can see giving up a second-round pick for Aaron. I can see giving up a first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, right? Or one of these other guys. But for Sam Bradford, okay? And maybe the thought in Chip's mind was that I can parlay all of this and I can go out and move up in the draft and get Mariota. Okay, and it didn't happen because Tennessee wasn't going to give up that pick. What was it, the second pick to get for Mariota? That just wasn't going to happen. And if I'm Tennessee, I don't do that either. We want our franchise quarterback, and you're trying to give us Sam Bradford. And okay, Fletcher Cox, okay, good player. Michael Kendricks, okay, promising linebacker, but Sam Bradford, and you want Sam Bradford to be our quarterback? No. We're going to roll the dice with Mariota. Right, Mr. Heisman? Chip Kelly, the GM, was awful. Awful. And the jury is still out on last season's season's draft, okay? Because Eric Rowe could be a player. They definitely hit on Jordan Hicks. And Nelson Aguilar, even though he had the dropsies for most of the season, including wide open touchdowns, he's a young receiver. He has to learn. He has to learn to play to be a wide receiver in the NFL. I'm still willing to give him time. I'm willing to give Eric Rowe time, and I really like what we said. One of the biggest shames of this season is Jordan Hicks got hurt. Because that guy was a playmaker as a linebacker. So the jury's still out on Chip drafting. As far as this past draft one, when he was the GM, we'll see. Jury's still out. We'll see within a couple years. But as far as NFL personnel goes, evaluating NFL talent, players, coaches, no, he was not good. Not at all. You don't give up, and I know this is a broken record, you don't give up a Pro Bowl wide receiver, a game-changing wide receiver, stretches the field, Deshaun Jackson, for no reason, other than he's not a good guy. You don't do that in the NFL. Maybe that flies in college, when you can just recruit guys to come in and take that position the next season. But you cannot do that in the NFL. And you cannot let guys like Jeremy Maclin walk and not do anything to replace him. And I'll give you an example. Okay, you're going to let Jeremy Maclin walk? You know what? Brandon Marshall's out there. Get him. He's a former All-Pro wide receiver. He's big. He's a target. He's a player. If you're going to let Jeremy Maclin walk, give us Brandon Marshall. No, it's okay. We got a rookie and we got a second-year wideout in Jordan Matthews. And, oh, yeah, we sprinkled in Miles Austin, who hasn't had a good year in 4 or 5 seasons. That's okay. No, it's not okay. This is the NFL. And I'm not saying that every team that wins Super Bowls and gets that ultimate prize has the greatest wide receivers in the world. But I guarantee you that most of them's got playmakers on their team. And yes, it helps to have that franchise quarterback, which is what I'm going to get to shortly. But you're going to let Jeremy Maclin walk. You're going to get rid of Deshaun Jackson, and you're going to do nothing to replace that besides bringing in a player well past his prime in Miles Austin, and you're going to draft a receiver and hope that everything's going to work out and be okay. Because they're good guys. Brandon Marshall was there to be had. And what happens? He goes to the Jets. He has an all-pro season. With Fitzpatrick throwing him the ball. Fitzpatrick, by the way, not of that franchise quarterback. Okay? It's not like they had Tom Brady throwing the ball there with the Jets. Or Aaron Rodgers. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Marshall had an all-pro season. We could have had Brandon Marshall. Playmaker, wide receiver. You're going to let one go, you bring one in. That's how it should work. Chip Kelly failed as a general manager. And he was given that power way too soon. Again, the blame also goes on Jeffrey Lurie. But I will commend Jeffrey Lurie for this. Jeffrey Lurie sat at those games, like the fans did. Jeffrey Lurie saw the failure of this team in the last few weeks. The loss to Arizona, the loss to Washington with everything on the line. He saw that team quit on their coach / GM. And he wanted to do something about it. And I guarantee you, I don't know if this is going to come out. If we're ever going to get the truth about this. But I guarantee you, he sat Chip down in a meeting and he said, look, I'm thinking about bringing Howie back as the GM, and you just be the coach and we'll see what happens next season. Are you okay with that? And Chip, being Chip, said, no, I want full control. I still want full control. And Jeffrey Lurie said, okay, there's the door. Go. And I will commend Jeffrey Lurie on that. As a fan of this team, and us fans are always going to be here. Okay? The old saying is, it is. Players come and go. Owners come and go. Coaches come and go. The fans are always going to be here. And we love this team. And the way this team played this season, Jeffrey Lurie saw what we saw, was a disaster. An absolute disaster. This was one of the worst seasons I've ever seen. And I'm not talking by record, because I've seen worse seasons than this record-wise, okay? Andy Reid's last season a few years ago, that was worse than this record-wise. But I was so frustrated watching that game in person against Arizona and watching that last Saturday night's game against Washington. And I was so frustrated during some of the other parts of this season, getting blown out by a rookie quarterback in Tampa Bay, getting blown out on Thanksgiving against the Lions. You know, losing week 2. You remember that video against Dallas when they looked just heartless and just, I don't know what the hell they were in that game. They looked like they never played football before on offense. Okay, so the moves that this man, Chip Kelly, made as GM, and then he has the audacity to say, well, I wasn't the GM, those weren't my moves. Well, whose moves were they, Chip? You were given full control before the season. Howie Roseman was sent to a closet in the NovaCare Center, and you were given the office and the keys to the castle. Those were your moves. You were the GM. You were the mad scientist that put this whole thing together, and it failed. Now, as a head coach, I don't know. Maybe he did some things. I mean, he had that whole tempo thing, and he introduced all the nutrition that now you see some other teams doing and whatnot. Okay. But as a GM, the guy was a failure. And I'll even say as a coach, the guy was a failure. The team went backwards. They regressed. They gave up on him. They quit on the coach. They quit on him. They went from being a team a couple years ago that won the division at 10-6 to being 9-3 after Thanksgiving a season ago, and then regressing from that point on, going backwards, getting rid of playmakers, Pro Bowlers, and bringing in what in return? You bring in an all-pro running back, you don't know how to use him. You put him in the wrong offense. Why'd you get him in the first place? Because Chip knows more than anyone else. He's the mastermind. At Oregon, he lost the national championship against Cam Newton and Auburn. And in the big games at the end of the season, including games in Oregon, he lost to Stanford and USC. Costing him division titles, costing him trips back to the national championship game. In the big games, he came up small, many times, going back to the Oregon days. But you know what? His first season here, he goes 10-6. He wins it. They win a division title, amazingly. No one expected that in the first year. And what? They lose at home to a team that's never won a road playoff game in the Saints. Now, stuff like that happens. I understand. But the big games, this guy came up small as a coach, and his teams came up small. In the big games, against playoff caliber teams, big at home. How many times has this team lost at home in his regime? And we're talking big, at the end of the season, Arizona, a show-me game, you lose, you get blown out. Okay, Arizona could be in the Super Bowl this year. Okay, I'll take it. Whatever. Show up against Washington. No? Okay. It's time for a change. Because it got stale real quick. You know the old saying, the NFL stands for not for long. If you're not winning, and not only you're not winning, you are taking talent away from the team. Now maybe that was talent that you were brought into. Maybe that was Andy Reid's talent. Okay, and I understand you want your own team, But you have to understand talent in this league. I don't care if that was Andy Reid's guys. If they're helping you win, why are you getting rid of them? And that was the biggest question mark for all of us Eagle fans. Why is he getting rid of this talent? It's not making him lose games. When he had DeSean Jackson, I mean, they didn't have Jeremy Maclin that year because he got the ACL injury. He was out. But they had D-Jax, they had McCoy, they had Foles throwing, what was it, the 27-2 or whatever it was, touchdowns and interceptions. They helped him win a division title. They helped him win 10 games in his first year. And then he just decides to get rid of DeSean Jackson for just on a whim. He's a bad guy. I can't coach him. Seemed to be doing okay in Washington. Seemed to be saying all the right things before and after the game this week, wasn't he? Guy was young. He's going to make mistakes. You don't just get rid of him because you feel like it. Oh, it's just the thing to do. Chip Kelly did not know how to assess NFL talent. When Andy Reid came here, and I'm going to go on, and I'm sorry. When Andy Reid came here, it was many years ago, he was the quarterback's coach for the Packers, a team that won the Super Bowl. His first order of business when he came here was to set the tone at training camp and also to bring in Jim Johnson as defensive coordinator. Why? Because Andy Reid was in the NFL. He was an assistant. And he knew that against the Colts, even though the Colts weren't a great team back then, the biggest team that the Packers had problems with, and not that they played them a ton, because the Colts AFC, Packers NFC, but one of the guys who gave them fits was Jim Johnson. He knew that because he was in the NFL as an assistant. He comes here as the head coach. He brings Jim Johnson with him. Were those his guys? Were those Andy Reid's guys? Brian Dawkins? Right? Hugh Douglas? Trotter? They were in the old regime. They were the Ray Rhodes guys. But he knew he needed to get a defensive coordinator in here. And that's what he did. He brought Jim Johnson in. And the rest, as they say, is history. Had a bad season his first year, but you know what? As a new head coach, you're building. You're trying to assess your players. And he made moves, but he kept other guys on the team because he knew they would be leaders. He didn't just get rid of them because they weren't his guys. I didn't draft these guys. Bobby Taylor. I didn't draft them. Why do I need them? No, you need them because they got talent and they're going to be leaders. And he saw that. He knew that they were going to be leaders in the future. That they have talent. And in the NFL, you have to have talent to win. And he saw that. Because he was in the NFL before. And he knew what it took to win because he was on a team. He was a coach on a team that won a Super Bowl. And he went to another one. So Chip Kelly comes here. Straight out of college. Straight out of Oregon. Comes here. First defensive coordinator he gets is Billy Davis from Cleveland. Now, you know when you get a guy from Cleveland, that's probably not a good idea. Defensive coordinator, right? Okay. That wasn't going to work. Just wasn't going to work. But he wanted that 3-4 scheme, and you know, look. It's not fair to compare anyone to Jim Johnson, rest his soul. It really isn't. The guy was an innovator as a defensive coordinator. Hard to come by guys like that, coaches like that have that type of vision. Hard to replace that. They never should have let Sean McDermott go those years ago, and that was Andy Reid's mistake. You know, after Jim Johnson left and passed away, McDermott was there the following season, and they decided to let him go after that season. It was a mistake. He's done great things in Carolina. He's one of those guys that people were saying could be the next coach of the Eagles now. I don't know if it will happen or not, but guy knows a defense. I'll tell you that. He knows how to coach guys on the defensive side of the ball. Knows how to draft them too. He has an eye for it. And I would not be opposed to McDermott coming here and being the head coach. Hell, for anything else, if it helps turn this defense around, you need a defense to win. And I think they have some talent on this defense. And I hope they bring back Fletcher Cox. And even Nolan Carroll I'd bring back. You need talent in the NFL to win. And you need NFL talent. And when you have that, you can't just let that go for no apparent reason. Or, okay, we're going to experiment with this and we're going to experiment with that. No, that doesn't work in the NFL. You get away with that in Oregon, but you don't get away with that here. And so that is why Chip Kelly is now unemployed by the Eagles. Now going forward, what are they going to do? Well, we're going to find out within the next few months. The new coaching regime here is in, and I'll tell you this, and one of the things I was going to say in this video before this whole thing went down was that if it does come to pass that they move on from Chip Kelly and the Chip Kelly regime, I will take the years of rebuilding, knowing that at least I got an NFL coach here that knows what winning is in the NFL, knows how to put an NFL team on the field. And I hope that if it's an assistant coach that they pull from some team, I hope to God it's one of the assistant coaches that was on one of these teams that has either won a Super Bowl, has been to a Super Bowl, has had playoff success, has had a lot of success in the league. One of these, like the Patriots of the world, or the Seahawks, or I'll even take the Panthers, Cardinals. Okay, give me winners. Don't give me some guy from Cleveland. Don't give me some guy from Jacksonville. I don't want any of them. I want a coach that's been to the pinnacle, or has at least come close to it, knows how to win in this league. That's what I want as an Eagles fan. And if it takes a few years, if we have to go through seasons of 4 wins or 5 wins or whatever, but if we're getting that improvement, if we're seeing the foundation being built to get us to that goal that all of us Eagle fans want, dying for, I will take the few seasons of, okay, we might not be that good. But hell, you never know. Maybe the new coach comes and says, like Chip, didn't they win the division the first year? You just don't know. Particularly in this division, who knows? Right? But I will take the rebuilding. And I was going to say this. If I have a choice between that and going through other seasons like this, oh, hell no. I don't want to go through this. This is hell. I'll go through the rebuilding for a few seasons, but I want to see the progress. I want to see an NFL team on the field. Now, I don't even know what the hell that was this season. I have no idea. It was a joke. In big moments coming up small, big games, not playing with any fire and emotion, at home. I want winners. That's who I want as the next head coach. I want a winner here. Jeffrey Lurie. I think Jeffrey Lurie made some sort of statement that said, going to do everything they can, that the next guy here is going to be the guy that's going to help, win that ultimate goal. And I hope to God he gets it. I can't go through another Chip Kelly right now. I can't. I need an NFL coach here with an NFL system, knowing NFL talent. That's not going to get rid of NFL talent for no apparent reason other than because I can. Because I don't want to be on that hamster wheel, or should I call it the chipmunk wheel, over and over and over again. Eagle fans, we care about this team. This means something to us. We aren't one of those fan bases that's your Johnny and Jane jump-ons that only shows up when the team's winning. I can point to a few of them. Some of those teams that are having success right now, those fan bases weren't always there. But the Eagle fans, we have always been here. And we will always be here. Because this team means something to us. The Eagles have always been a part of this city. They didn't leave. They didn't come back. They've always been here. They're as a part of the foundation of this city, like the Liberty Bell and cheesesteaks and Rocky. And it's kind of a shame that one of our biggest claims to fame is a fictional boxer in a movie. But it is what it is. We love this team. You got people spending so much money. I feel for the season ticket holders that have to go through it. You know, they're paying for the seats, they're paying for the parking, they're paying for the food, for the tailgate. They're so, you know, they're like all of us, they're emotionally into this because that's their team. And they're out there every game, cheering their hearts out. And his team does this season. We get called every name in the book. We get ridiculed by everybody. But we love this team. We're always there for them. Always. And all we want is that confetti to come down on us once. And Chip Kelly wasn't going to get it done. Certainly not as the GM. I mean, God, who knows who he would have gotten rid of this season. Fletcher Cox made a Pro Bowl. I guess he would have been the next to go. Right? We don't need him. Pro Bowl, what's that? And I know the Pro Bowl isn't the goal. The Super Bowl is. But to win the Super Bowl, you do need a few guys that have been in that Pro Bowl, okay? You do need that. Kind of goes hand in hand. Eagle Nation, I think that we have something to look forward to. You know, we were bamboozled by this guy, okay? A few years ago when I think the biggest problem is he won the 10 games right off the bat, okay? He said he felt like he could do anything. His head really exploded then. It's like the Death Star in Star Wars, you know? But I think the right decision was made tonight by Jeffrey Lurie. And I will tip the hat to Jeffrey Lurie. You know, it's a tough decision to make. It was, you know, he brings him in. They do everything they do to get him here, and it doesn't work out. And Jeffrey he sees that. Particularly when you see the fans leaving. I mean, we're talking hard fans. Have been through a ton of stuff over the years. Die-hard fans leaving the stadium in the third and fourth quarter of those last two games because of how ugly it was. And he sees that from his owner's box. Fans are his. The fans are the ones that you know, they're there. They buy the merchandise. You know, they go to the games. Without the fans, you wouldn't have a team. So he sees this, and he says, I have to do something. And I do. I give him credit for that. I do. I know he's come under a lot of heat, and rightfully so, but I will commend him for making this move. If Chip wasn't willing to give up that GM role, he's got to go. Because we can't have more seasons of this. And more off seasons like last season where you just don't know what's going to happen. It's beyond Thunderdome. It was time. And I'm glad the move was made. But like I said before, I want an NFL coach on this team. Someone who knows NFL talent, who can bring a staff together, that's going to help this team win. All we want as a fan base, for as ridiculed as we get, all we want is a Super Bowl. To finally feel rewarded for all the years of going through the near misses and the horrible seasons. We want that. And I hope to God that the next coach of the Philadelphia Eagles and the next coaching staff of the Philadelphia Eagles are going to finally be the one to get it. I really do. As to who that's going to be, I don't know. We're going to find out. There's a lot of speculation already, but we're going to find out within the next month or so. But this was a big day. It was a bombshell. It was something that just was not expected. At least to happen today, before the last game of the season. But damn it, it's time to rebuild this team. It's time. It's time, you know, and there are players to keep, obviously, But it's time to get it right. It's time to get it right. To finally give us this thing that we've been waiting for so damn long. And I always said, why can't we just be can we just get the right coach, the right players, the right everything to make it happen? And hopefully this time it will be. Hopefully. We've been through a lot of coaches over the years. I know Andy was here a long time, but really before that, we were through some coaches, and now Chip only for 3 years. But damn it, I really hope that they get it right this time. I really do. I really do. So Jeffrey, this is on you. Okay? Didn't work out with Chip. You got to get the right guy this time. This is on you. This is on you and your regime to get it right. This fan base, we're always going to be there. We're always going to be at games or rooting at home or in the bars or wherever because we love our Eagles. Whether we live here, we live around the country, around the world, this team is the one we root for with our hearts, full hearts, every year. And damn it, it's time to get it right. It really is. So let's get it right this time. Let's get it right. All right, everyone. Well, I probably won't have a video after the Giant loss. I'm already marking it down as a loss. But I will have a video with a wrap-up of the season, and I look forward to what could happen. We'll see who they bring in as a new head coach and a new staff. It's kind of exciting in a way. It's you just don't know what to expect. But, we'll see. This season was definitely a rough one. There's no denying that. It was just, yeah, you can see by the emotion. It was rough. It was rough, but hopefully the payoff will be here sooner than later. So Chip Kelly, the era of Chip is no more. He's gone. He's now former coach Chip Kelly. I guess he'll go back to college somewhere. But that's it for him with the Eagles, and that's it for his regime. A new era will dawn with the Eagles after this season to see who they get as their coach and coaching staff. Hopefully guys who have been there, knows what it takes to win in the NFL, I would hope. And we'll see. I'm kind of excited about it. Again, big day in Eagles Nation after a pathetic season. And, let's see what happens. All we can do as fans is just wait and see what happens. So, big shouts as always to the rest of the Eagles Nation. I know a lot of people already put up their vlogs on this and everything. And as always, all we want is for this team to win. And hopefully they can get the coaching staff in here that can finally get it done. So as always, go Birds. Let's get the right coaching staff in here, and then follow that up with some more players, and let's get this thing going in the right direction. Okay, everyone. I'm glad. I thank you all for watching this series. For those of you who bared with me for this long vlog, I'm sorry about that, but I had a lot to say. And thank you for following me on another season. But now it's the off season coming up, and there'll be some other videos for that too. So Season of the Fan Volume 2 will be coming to a close just about. There'll probably be one more video I'll make as a wrap-up of the season, but in earnest. But be on the lookout for that sometime in the future, probably early 2016. And yeah, so that's going to do it for now. Chip is gone, and now let's see who the new coach will be in the future. All right, everyone, take care.